I thank you all for coming. Today is a pretty good day for us here in Minnesota, and I'm proud to say that Democrats' total control of state government in Minnesota is over. All right. Last night, Minnesota elected a very exceptional group of dedicated leaders. We have teachers, small business owners, farmers, and veterans, and I'm just absolutely thrilled about the group that we have here. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to the House Republican majority of 2015. It was kind of an interesting night. We are absolutely thrilled with the end result. Looks like we're going to have 72 members in our caucus versus 62. We're thrilled with that, and couldn't be more happy with the members that are here joining us today. So I want to introduce a few of those just to make some brief comments, and then we can certainly take some questions. So first I want to introduce Roz Peterson from Lakeville. She's a second-time candidate, member of the Lakeville School Board, chair of the Lakeville School Board, and just a fantastic candidate, and she will be an unbelievably good member. So please welcome Roz Peterson.
Thank you. Well, it's an honor and thrill to be here. I'm so excited to move forward and serve the good people of the state of Minnesota. And I heard time and time again that people didn't feel that their voices were heard, and so we're hoping to bring that perspective. Thank you.
Next, I want to introduce Dave Baker from the Wilmer area. Dave is maybe I'll start this way. Minnesota lost a very good friend this last year in David Olson, and Dave is a very good friend of David Olson's, and I couldn't be more happy that Dave is joining us, and I know that David is smiling down on this. So please welcome Dave Baker.
Thank you, Kurt. I cannot tell you what an honor it is as well for me to be here. I've never ran for office before. This is a humbling experience right now, and I didn't know until about 2 o'clock in the morning that I would be here today. So this is great. I can't wait to work with my colleagues here. I'm going to meet some brand new friends, and I know that this is going to be a very great experience for me, and I loved every minute of this walk and this journey. And when I met with Dave Olson back in January to give me the okay to step off of his board of directors to do this race, he had nothing but complete confidence in us and what we needed to do. So I'm here on his behalf in the state of Minnesota, and we have lots of work to do. I'm excited about working with a good two-party system. I've got some new great friends here, and I'm looking forward to this. So thank you again for being here.
So thank you again so much for coming out. We are all probably living on very little sleep, and I know you are as well. So we thank you for being here, and I couldn't be more proud to stand alongside these phenomenal newly elected representatives, and I'm excited, and I know they are excited to roll up our sleeves and get to work on the problems that we know Minnesotans want us to solve. So. Oh, I'm sorry. I got one more. I'm sorry. Yep, I missed one. Thank you. I want to introduce Peggy Bennett. Peggy is a school teacher and she worked phenomenally hard from the Albert Lee area. Please help me in welcoming Peggy Bennett. So, sorry. That's how little sleep I'm running on. So.
I know he's had less sleep than me, but it's a joy to be here. It's honoring, it's humbling, and I'm looking forward to representing the people of my district. I've taught elementary school for 33 years in the Albert Lee area schools. I'm looking forward to bringing some of my educational experience to St. Paul as well, and we'll work hard. I've got a great team to work with, so thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. So with that, if you have questions for me, we'll open it up for questions, or if you have questions for these three or anybody else.
The total control is over,
Yep.
But does this mean that with divided government, we're once again have the kind of gridlock we had in 2011?
You know, I hope not. I think that's going to be up to the Democrats to make that decision. I was encouraged to hear that the governor this morning was talking about working with us, and I'm really encouraged by that. You know, we really are dedicated to coming here to St. Paul. We want to roll up our sleeves and get to work for Minnesotans on the problems that they care about. If Democrats are on the same page, we're going to get along just fine. So I don't see any reason why we're going to have any sort of gridlock or anything like that. I hope that nobody is talking about that, and we look forward to having a good working relationship. Because ultimately, we want to do what's best for Minnesota.
Absolutely. So will you guarantee no government shutdown?
You know, I don't see any reason why we would have one. I really don't, and I hope that the Democrats see it that way as well. So you can never say never, but I have no reason to believe that there would be one.
Mr. Leader, you mentioned, I think in the news release, about the seat you won in Greater Minnesota. Does this set up a Republican Greater Minnesota party versus the Democratic Metro party?
It's interesting. I've gotten a lot of questions about that really since last night. You know, we won one seat, Roz Peterson in the metro area, and we won 10 seats in Greater Minnesota. So, you know, what was that exactly because of? I think what we do know is that there were a lot of Democrat freshman incumbents that came to St. Paul and voted with the Minneapolis and St. Paul members and really lost touch with their districts. And I think they suffered the consequences of that in the election last night.
What about the decisions Democrats made 2 years ago to do things, well, for instance, combine the Environmental and Agriculture Committee? Did that really have an impact on voters?
We believe that it did, and we've been talking about this really since that happened, that this is you know, the last 2 years had been a Democrat majority that really was Minneapolis and St. Paul centric and was forgetting about the rest of the state. So we knew that would be a liability for them, and that certainly is the way that it ended up.
So will you be making decisions based on your majority of rural members?
I can guarantee you we're going to have an agriculture committee. Does that answer your question?
Chaired by somebody from Minneapolis.
Yeah, and it won't have a Minneapolis chair. I can guarantee you those two things. But you know, we're thrilled of this entire group, and you know, we don't see Minnesota as two separate groups of people. I think the era of divide and conquer politics needs to be over in Minnesota. This group wants to roll up our sleeves and get to work for every Minnesotan, and that's what we intend to do. But that means we're not going to forget about any part of the state, and that includes, most importantly, the rural areas that I think have gotten left behind over the last 2 years.
What about issues? What do you think were the issues in Greater Minnesota? Social issues were still prevalent. I visited some of these districts. Yeah.
You know, potentially they were. I'm not sure that I've had an opportunity to really dissect the results completely and wrap my mind around what caused it. And I know you guys will spend many countless hours over the next weeks kind of writing those stories, and I'm interested in what you find out or what you think. But we know that Minnesotans in Greater Minnesota felt like the DFL was out of touch with the issues they cared about, you know. And a lot of those issues really were taking more money out of family budgets. So it was, you know, increasing taxes. It was taxes on ag equipment. It was, you know, MNsure, which was taking more money out of family budgets. So it was just a kind of a whole host of things that, you know, multiplied together spelled the fact that the Democrats were out of touch with Greater Minnesota.
Are you willing to identify marriage as one of those issues? Because some of those Democrats who lost voted for same-sex marriage.
Potentially it could be. I'm not going to say that it's not, but it's interesting that the two rural Democrats that voted against same-sex marriage also lost. So I don't think we can just make a broad blanket statement that issue had anything to do with the end results. It seems to be really more of a metro-rural issue. So, yeah.
Mr. Leader, if you believe that rural Minnesota was left behind and local leaders were out of touch, why did Governor Dayton get reelected?
Well, you know, that's a good question. You know, we've got, obviously, and we may be scratching our heads for a while on that. No, you know, I think you can look at the map. There are Democrats in Minneapolis and St. Paul that win with 82% of the vote, maybe 88% of the vote. We don't have any districts like that. So, you know, Minneapolis and St. Paul, there's a heavy concentration of Democrats in those areas, and that's why it becomes easier for us to build a majority in the House than it does maybe to win a statewide race. But I think Jeff Johnson ran a great race. I'm thrilled with what he did, and he came up a little bit short, but I think he can hold his head high today.
What are some things passed under total DFL control over the last 2 years that you will try to undo with your new?
Well, that's a good question, and I think before I probably get too far in the weeds on specific issues, I want to make sure that I'm respectful to our new caucus. I mean, we've got 21 brand new members that are coming in. We want to meet and talk about what everybody's priorities are, and we'll be formulating a legislative platform over the course of the next month or month and a half, and we'll be rolling that out, and we'll invite you to that press conference as well. So,
oh, raise your hand if you're ready.
I am, yes. But
what about majority leader?
Representative Daudt.
What else? Go ahead, Tom.
On the tax issue, will you seek to reduce taxes or just hold the line on taxes, and in particular, the 2% tax on the wealthiest Minnesotans?
I think those are going to be great conversations to have. It's been an interesting kind of microcosm of tax policy the last couple of majorities. I mean, we came in as a Republican majority after the 2010 election in 2011 and 2012. We were facing a $6 billion budget deficit. We frankly balanced that without raising taxes. And the end result was a $3.4 billion surplus. Now the Democrats step in. They increased taxes $2.1 billion when they were facing a diminishing deficit, which actually by the time they passed their budget was about $300 million. And what we've seen now is 6 of the last 8 months where revenues are coming in below forecast. So I think we need to ask ourselves, first of all, does increasing taxes actually mean that you're going to get more revenue for the state of Minnesota? Because these last 2 budgets have really not bared that out. So, but we need to see what happens with the budget forecast both in November and February, and we certainly want to do what's right by Minnesotans, and I think what we need to do is make sure that we stay true to what we're talking about, which is making sure that we put Minnesotans first. And I think what Minnesotans want and need are more better paying job opportunities. So we need to create an environment in Minnesota where we can have a positive growth to our economy, and where we can entice job creators to grow their businesses and create the jobs that Minnesotans want and need.
Back to the tax issue.
This for 2 years, repealing this or cutting it back, how bad this tax hike was?
Which one particularly, Pat?
On 2%.
I think we kind of need to see what happens, and I'm going to be realistic too. We're dealing with a Democrat governor and a Democrat Senate. I'm not going to stand here today and draw a line in the sand that says that we're not going to work with you unless you do A, B, or C. We're obviously going to advocate for what's right for Minnesotans, and if that's what's right for Minnesotans, that's the side that will fall on that. But we need to have that conversation together as a team. Before I can answer that, probably.
On transportation taxes, would you be open to something along those lines? The governor talked a lot about that during the campaign.
I have said all along through this that I think anything's on the table. However, I don't believe that we need to all of a sudden jump to that conclusion. I mean, I think you guys know I'm a little bit of a political junkie, so I read crosstabs on polls. The latest poll, it was your poll, Tom. The crosstabs had a question in it about the gas tax, and 80% of Minnesotans were against the gas tax in that poll. So, we're not going to do something that 80% of Minnesotans are against, nor should the Democrats. But we do understand that prioritizing funding for roads and bridges is important to Minnesotans, and it's also important to us. And we're gonna do that. We're gonna prioritize funding for roads and bridges.
You've made your mark as a caucus over the last couple of years on Minshore, talking a lot about it, correctly predicting some of the problems that were going to occur. What are you going to do to fix it, in your view?
That's a good question, and it's been a tough issue for Minnesotans, and I frankly will tell you that the Dayton administration and Democrats have not really been honest with Minnesotans about the problems, and until they can get realizing that there are real problems with it, it's going to be tough for us together bipartisanly to fix those problems. But we want to talk about those problems, and we want to talk about those problems in a way that we can find solutions that will solve those problems. I mean, the rate increases that we're experiencing from last year to this year, while the Commerce Department came out and said they were 4.5%. When you run the numbers, it's more like 41 or 42%. That's misleading Minnesotans, and we need to figure out what's causing those kind of rate increases, and really provide something to Minnesotans that will offer a better quality product at a lower cost. Ultimately, the original goals of MNsure were to increase access and to provide that product at a lower cost. And unfortunately, right now, it looks like we may have failed at, or not we, but the Democrats may have failed at both of those. So we're also going to make sure that the MNsure Oversight Board gets more active. I don't like to see the executives at MNsure getting bonuses when there have been severe problems. We just found out the day of the election or the day before the election that that MNsure is telling counties now to collect applications in paper format because the computer system isn't working. How many red flags do we have to see before we admit there's problems?
So are you going to repeal it? Are you going to push to repeal it?
Again, I think I'll go back to, I think we want to be realistic with what we're working with the governor and a Democrat governor and a Democrat Senate, but we certainly want to do what's right by Minnesotans. So we'll try to fix it. If repeal becomes the best solution, we certainly would want to do that.
Senate office building, can you stop it?
If we can, I would try. It's this is probably one of the biggest liabilities for Democrats, and I think maybe more so because it was an example of misplaced priorities. I'm not sure that people understand that the space agreement hasn't yet been signed for the Capitol, and there's 67 offices for senators across the street in the new building, and at least 22 in the Capitol, maybe more. That means senators are going to have more than one office for a job they have 8 months out of every 24 months.
So what should you do?
I don't know that we. I mean, they're digging a hole in the ground. We can't obviously stop it, but if we could have, I think we would want to. But I don't know. We'll certainly explore if there are other options for that building.
The paired one with that was the lawmaker pay amendment. Where a lot of people got riled up over that. Are you guys going to seek to pull that off the 2016 ballot?
I would have to look at whether we can do that. If we can, I think we would look at that. Obviously the Senate that voted to put it on is still the same Senate that we're going to have to deal with over the next 2 years. So I want to be realistic about what we can do, but we need to do what's right by Minnesotans first. So thank you so much.
Tell us about the process now. The election of speaker, who else you electing, when do you appoint committee chairs, that type of thing.
Okay, our plan is on Friday morning to meet as a caucus. We will also meet on Thursday night to have our victory dinner and celebrate as a new team, and we're thrilled to do that. We're thrilled about all of our new members. The election for Speaker and Majority Leader is slated to happen on Friday morning at 9 o'clock.
So anything else? Appointing chairs, anything like that?
We actually, one of the things you do as leader is kind of plan for every eventuality or every possibility. So I have been working for a few weeks laying out a transition plan for what would happen if we did take the majority. So we do have a timeline in place. I, of course, need to review that with my team, and they need to place their confidence in me and elect me as the speaker before we move forward with that. But I think that we have that in place, and if that follows through, we'll have a committee structure probably the week after next, and chairs appointed at that same time. So thank you so much for coming and talking with us, and we appreciate you staying up late last night and being here today with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.